Back now to our top story and the court appearance of Robert Durst today. Durst waiving his right to extradition in a New Orleans courtroom. The millionaire developer arrested Saturday there in Louisiana, facing a charge of capital murder for the death of Susan Berman back in Los Angeles. She was killed some 15 years ago. Durst has always maintained his innocence in the murder of Susan Berman, along with a couple of others. Joining me now is veteran prosecutor Paul Henderson. Paul, it's good to have you here. And so a lot of elements to this fascinating story of Robert Durst, who first made headlines back in the 80s when his wife at the time disappeared and has never been found since. But the now I guess, element that has everyone talking is the fact that on tape you can audibly hear him confess to what has gone on in his life and the killings of 3 different people he's been questioned about. I just want to play it for everybody. Take a listen.
Killed them all, of course.
Killed them all, of course. So we're talking about his first wife, Kathy, never been found. The neighbor that he had in Galveston, Texas, where he was acquitted, and that happened in 2000. Then 15 years ago, his friend Susan Berman, who was shot in the back of the head in Los Angeles. He's now under arrest for that. So is this audio tape even admissible?
Well, that's what the litigation is going to focus on. Those statements made, which are unguarded moments, and prosecutors are going to try and use those statements to argue that they are admissible, and they are admissions. What I think is interesting is that he refers to and says that he killed them all. So he's only been charged in one of the cases where he was found not guilty, but referencing them, so it's plural, is an indication that prosecutors are likely going to want to admit to show an admissibility indicating that he is involved in the other 2 cases in which he's never been arrested or charged, so there's no double jeopardy, and those are ongoing investigations. There's no statute of limitations, as you know, for a homicide, and so I'm sure those are the admissions and those are the statements where you're going to see a lot of controversy and discussion in the courts, particularly in this case because they were unguarded moments. I think we're going to see litigation as to whether or not he had an expectation of privacy when he made those statements, because even though he was being taped for this project that he was working on, he had drifted off after being shown evidence and had wandered into a bathroom.
Right.
And so if I were defending him, I would be arguing that he had an expectation of privacy because he had gone into the bathroom and didn't know that he was being taped. But I think in light of the fact that this project has been ongoing, and in light of the fact that this is an ongoing and open investigation, we're likely to see those statements be a big part of this case.
Speaking of a defense, he had 4 different attorneys with him that are defending him that represented him in New Orleans today. So he's pretty lined up in terms of defense attorneys. He's waived extradition. He's going to go back to Los Angeles. But in the Susan Berman murder, a woman who was a gangster's daughter and then turned into being a crime novelist, she was a best friend of Berman from UCLA days, but she was shot in the back of the head. The police were tipped off to that because of a letter that was just sent to Beverly Hills Police. In it, it said the address of where Berman lived, and it just wrote the word cadaver. Now, this is the evidence that was revealed in the documentary. On the lower part of the screen, we see the envelope that's addressed to Susan Berman when Durst and her were getting along. There, at the top of the screen, is the letter that was sent to the Beverly Hills Police Department. Beverly is spelled wrong in both instances, and the handwritings look identical. So is this much of a smoking gun, or is this not substantial when it comes to court?
Well, prosecutors are going to paint it as the smoking gun, and they're going to say that this is exactly what Durst was responding to when he made those statements. And so that note is very important because it is what prompted or elicited the conversation, or elicited the private moments or the conversation that took place
talking to himself
when he responded.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's been a wild series to watch, and this is certainly an interesting finale for many reasons, for not just only Berman's family, but for his first wife, Kathy Durst, and her family that has gone unresolved in terms of what happened to her back in the early 1980s. Paul Henderson, thanks so much.